Just like with most events in 2020, we know this year's Thanksgiving celebration is going to look and feel very different for most of us, whether it's because of the pandemic or simply from loved ones who are no longer with us. Many dinner tables will have fewer seats this year.
But we can still celebrate and honor our loved ones with memories that remind us of Thanksgiving past, even if we're not together this year. So in the spirit of the season, the TWILA team is sharing a few of our favorite family Thanksgiving recipes with you at home. So we'll start with my favorite holiday meal. It's a very mundane and simple one, but it's a dish that will forever remind me of my grandmother who passed away a few years ago. My mamaw was a phenomenal cook, and she was famous for her bountiful holiday dinners that stretched from counter to counter. But it was her macaroni and cheese that all of her grandchildren will always remember. Now this recipe is nothing spectacular, I'm going to warn you, and most culinary experts would likely thumb their nose at the composition and texture. It's not a traditional thick and rich mac and cheese, but actually it's pretty watery for a lack of better words. But that's what made it so distinctively hers, and delicious in my opinion. Mamaw would spend so much time at the kitchen table hand shredding an entire block of old-fashioned Velveeta cheese, yes I said Velveeta cheese, onto a round cookie sheet. And when we were old enough, she recruited all of us to help in the process. This recipe will always remind me of holidays with my mamaw.
Thanksgiving's always a time of year when my family gets together. My mother loves it for all of her 3 sons to come home, and my favorite food is, I always claim a turkey wing every year. I have to have one. I love dark meat on turkey, and it's just my favorite. Now my in-laws, we go to Christmas with my in-laws, and they always fry a turkey, and one of their traditions is they fry it and everybody then gathers around and peels the skin off and eats the skin, and it's delicious if bad for us, and that's just my favorite. Dark meat turkey is, even though it's basic, it's just my favorite.
My favorite holiday dish is Mom's Spinach and Artichoke Dip. It is creamy and cheesy and everything you can ask for on the side. It's one of my favorite go-to snacks, as she and I work together every year to prepare Thanksgiving Day dinner. And watching her and Momo prepare dinner whenever I was a little girl, and now Mom and I get to do it together, it's become something really special to me.
When I think of Thanksgiving, I don't just think of the meal on Thursday. For me, I think of waking up every day of that week to go deer hunting at the farm in the morning and the afternoon. While I enjoyed the hunting, the post-hunt debrief at my grandparents' house was always fun. My dad, brother, and myself would take turns telling Gramps and my grandmother, who we called Goggy, about everything we saw or that we didn't see on that hunt. That's not really my favorite part. The chess pie was my favorite. During the week of Thanksgiving, Goggy would make maybe a dozen chess pies. I'm sure it's not the healthiest pie there is, but it's my favorite. It's mostly eggs, butter, and I think some lemon and vanilla. But the most important was my grandmother's touch. My sisters have taken up the job of making the chess pies since Goggy passed away, and they're really good, but they're not the same. That pie will always make me think of Thanksgiving, and for that matter, Christmas, down on the farm.
For the record, Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. There's no expectation of gifts, there's not as much commercialization. It's just a day of food, fellowship, and giving thanks for another year of blessings. That said, I used to be the traditional guy who loved a turkey or even a big old turducken for the center of the table. However, my father-in-law, Ned Mendes, he's a big fan of all the recipes ever printed in the New Orleans Time-Picayune and swears by the New Orleans root beer glazed ham. And now I do too. It's great to make, and you end up with this dark outer layer to the ham that's just full of goodness. However, I modify the recipe a bit. It calls for Barks root beer, and I do love Barks, but I'm a bigger fan of IBC root beer, which uses cane sugar. And we all know where that cane sugar is coming from, right? I made it last year, and I'm going to make it again this year, albeit for a much smaller gathering. By the way, Jennifer Finley is under the weather right now. Despite you just seeing her do that story about the Cheniers, she asked me to share that Chef Celeste sweet potato pie is among her favorites, and it's what she's hoping to make this year. By the way, Jennifer, Kevin, get well soon. That does it for this edition of TWILA. We're going to take the week of Thanksgiving off, so if you see this show again next week, that's why. We hope you take time to enjoy and appreciate your family and friends as well.
And we're thankful for you, our viewers. Thanks for joining us, and on behalf of the entire TWILA staff, happy Thanksgiving.